Well, hey sweet people, and welcome back to the channel, or if it's your first time here, welcome especially. My name's Sally. I am so glad that you've stopped by. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner and I specialize in women's metabolic and hormone health. And with that being the case, over the years, I have had the opportunity to kind of review and try out a number of different products related to cycle tracking. As you might expect, knowing one's cycle is incredibly important when it comes to evaluating hormone and metabolic health. And most recently, I was reached out to by MIRA to try out and review their MIRA tracker, which was very exciting to me because this is something I have been eyeing for a while. I think it has tremendous applications for my clients that I work with in my practice. And then of course, I just wanted to share it with you guys here on YouTube, but there's also my bias just right out front is the company did give me this product for free for the chance to try and for the chance just to give you my honest opinion. So that's what I'm going to be doing in today's video. This really just will be a chatty kind of review style video, nothing too structured, but I do hope you'll find it helpful, kind of addressing like who might find this useful, who it might not be for, and then I'll start out just by showing you everything that's included. So I have the Fertility Max kit. If you go on their website, also if you want to check them out, you can just head to the link in the description box and you'll see there are different options, like you can just buy the tracker itself or you can buy the tracker with wands, but you're gonna need the wands anyway, so it makes sense just to choose the wands that work best for you and you'll save some money by getting them together. But of course it includes the tracker. This is great in that it syncs to your phone, but everything is kind of included right here. So you're not dependent on like actually hooking it up to your phone like some other trackers. You can see the hole right there is just where the wand goes in, and I should have charged this before this video. You'll see it in a minute when I walk you through how to use it, but this screen just lights up and very self-explanatory. So I got, again, the Fertility Max kit, which came with 20 of these wands, which is enough for 2-ish cycles. I tracked one whole cycle, and you don't test every single day, but it does tell you again exactly when to test. You test like really close to the beginning of your cycle, so it kind of has the baseline, and then around ovulation, and then a ways into your luteal phase. And then I also have more than enough test strips to I could do that again, or I'm going to use these just to kind of check in mid-cycle because I am keeping an eye on my progesterone levels, and this is really helpful for that. So this is what the wands look like in packages. I'm not going to open one right now, but again, you'll see what they look like open when I go through how to use it. And then it also comes with this little fancy collapsible urine cup. How delightful. Okay, so in terms of what the tracker is designed for and who it might be good for, it is like a classic fertility ovulation tracker. Gonna give you so much more information than just ovulation strips. But I think often when we think of these fertility trackers, we have in mind conception, and kind of the classic person who would definitely be a good fit is someone who is trying to get pregnant, has maybe been trying for a while, having a little bit of difficulty, having a difficult time maybe identifying their fertile window, or more pertinently perhaps wants to just confirm that they are indeed ovulating. I think it's really, really helpful. I'm a big fan of using like temperature tracking to identify fertile window, and to be honest, I don't think this should be your first like line of defense. I would recommend tracking your cervical fluid, tracking your temperature. Temp Drop's a great tool that I use every single day for that, and I have another video on Temp Drop which I will just link below. But where I think this is incredibly helpful is if you have been tracking your cycle, you are not conceiving, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. This can give you a really clear idea of if you're ovulating and how strong your ovulation is. And so that is oftentimes going to be the first step in kind of figuring out what to do and how to support conception as a whole when it is proving to be a little bit more complicated than anticipated. I also think, and this is just how I've personally used it, that if you're someone who wants to kind of check in with your hormonal status, regardless of whether or not you're trying to conceive, honestly, I think this is super important in the years like leading up to conception, is to have an idea of where your hormones and your metabolic health are at, because that's going to make your chances of conception so much easier and support you in carrying a healthy pregnancy, reduce chances of miscarriage, all all of that good stuff. This is awesome for looking at estrogen to progesterone balance and then being able to troubleshoot from there, which is something I have been keeping an eye on. I have a history of estrogen dominance and just low progesterone, so it was really great to get to check in with this and see how my progesterone levels in particular were doing. I was pleasantly surprised. Definitely feel like my estrogen is down lower than it's been in the past. The things I've been doing through diet and lifestyle have been working. Progesterone goes up and down a little bit, but it's definitely better than it was a year or so ago when I reviewed a similar tracker of this sort. Anyway, so I think it's fantastic for assessing overall hormone status, but there is something that I just want to preface with there. I think it's important to remember that our hormones are just a reflection of what is going on the deeper metabolic level. And so we can often just look at symptoms and say, okay, yeah, it's pretty clear that you're experiencing estrogen dominance. It's pretty clear that you're experiencing low progesterone. It's relatively straightforward to assess that, oftentimes, at least for me as someone who has like worked with a lot of women who are dealing with these symptoms. But the question I want to ask is, why is that happening? And in terms of asking why is that happening, beyond just identifying whether or not ovulation is actually occurring and how strong that ovulation is, comes down to looking again at the metabolic piece. And this isn't going to be the best way to do that. It's just telling us what's happening, not why it's happening. Still can be valuable information. Again, can be great for assessing progress, but it's not going to tell you like, here's the root problem and here's how to fix it, if that makes sense. Okay, enough of me blabbing about this. Let's get into what it actually looks like to use the tracker. The first thing you need to do once you get your tracker is go ahead and download the app and set up the tracker, sync the tracker to your phone. There are very clear instructions on how to do this. The app makes it easy and walks you through step by step. It's going to ask you some questions about your last cycle, about your cycle averages, and then just some basic health kind of information. It will also tell you the first day on which you need to test, and you will get a notification each morning that you need to test to do so. That said, if you're someone like me who doesn't necessarily touch their phone first thing in the morning, then you can just look the night before or the days before to see when it's going to recommend your first test or your next test, so you are ready. Now, it is important that you use your first urine of the day because you're going to see those hormone levels generally most concentrated in it. You're most likely to get the clearest results. So I recommend having this test cup easily accessible so you can wake up, fill it up, and don't have to think about it. So once you have finished filling up your little sample collector cup, you are going to open the app. You can sync it with the tracker itself. That happens very quickly. Then you're going to hit take test, and there is going to be a timer that you can hit. So it's very clear how to use these test strips, but you're going to stick it into your sample cup for about 10 seconds until that timer goes off. Make sure it goes until the line on the test stick, or it's stuck in all the way to the line on the test stick. And then you're gonna pull it out, switch the cap to the other side, and you'll insert the reader portion, whatever it is called, into the Mira tracker itself. It will then start another timer. It takes about 20 minutes for it to retrieve all of the data, and then it will show you once it is finished directly on Mira itself, and it will also send that information on your phone. On your phone, it's really lovely. You can view the information in a number of different ways. You can look at each day acutely, and then there is also a way to look at a graph of the month as you collect more information, or a chart of the month. I will put, you'll be able to see my kind of screen recording up here, which shows the last month that I did. And it should give you pretty clear indication of whether or not ovulation occurred. It will also tell you directly. It will confirm your ovulation for you, tell you when you're in your peak days, and then tell you like chances of conception on a given day based on those results. So again, pretty straightforward to use, nothing particularly remarkable there. I'm going to tell you my only gripe with the Mira tracker, and that is that these max wands are only testing 3 out of your 4 main kind of sex hormones. So it is going to test your estrogen, your progesterone, and your luteinizing hormone, or LH. It is not going to test your FSH. They do have separate test strips that will test your FSH. And for my purposes, I'm not too concerned with testing FSH, but it is a part of the picture. And so I do wish that this one test strip did include all 4 of those. That is something that the Mira Tracker's main competitor, which I'm not going to name, I did a video in the past, unfortunately just don't have a good relationship with that brand anymore, but you can search for it if you really want to find it. That is one thing that the competitor kind of has going for it, or at least when I use that product, had going for it that Mira doesn't necessarily. Overall, I really like it. I think it's great if you just want to check in with your hormone status. Of course, this is going to provide more insight in a lot of ways than a blood test, because it is looking at hormone levels over the course of the month as opposed to just a snapshot in time, which is the case with a blood test. And it's going to be more affordable than if you were consistently having to go back and get blood tested multiple times throughout the month. That said, I wouldn't recommend this for someone who is just starting out trying to conceive or just trying to know your cycle. I think there are much more affordable ways to do that. You can just buy a classic thermometer at the store. You can use something like Temp Drop, track your cervical mucus. And even with that, you can get a pretty clear picture of whether or not ovulation is happening. This is just a really good next step. If you're not getting the information you need from that form of cycle tracking, or you want a little bit of extra support or ease in conceiving. And I also think it's worth saying some people just don't want to learn how to track their cycles. I think it's really important, but I understand that other people don't share that priority. And maybe for those people, this would be kind of a good choice in supporting those same needs. My one gripe, like I said, is that the Fertility Max strips do not test for FSH, and you have to buy separate test strips if you want to do that. But overall, I think it's a really good product. I've already used it with a number of my clients, and it's provided really helpful information. So again, if you want to check it out, it is linked in the description box. I appreciate you watching today's video, and until next time, bye y'all.